Hey Seekers, Neptune is moving direct early December 2023, December 5th, and it's moving direct in Pisces. Saturn is also in Pisces and just recently moved direct. Saturn is currently in the first degree of Pisces, so it's going to stay in the first degrees of Pisces for a while. And Neptune is in the late degrees of Pisces, which is going to stay there for a while as well, currently on the 24th. It's going to move direct on the 24th degree Pisces. So far, the very long period of time in which both Saturn and Neptune were retrograding together in the sign of Pisces, that served as a very meaningful aspect of the major deception and confusion that has been going on in the collective. We've been living in an upside down world where many people have been under the impression that reality is actually the opposite of what it is in reality. In the past 2 decades, actually, there has been a really deep level of deceit in the world. But recently it has been very, very intense, and it came to a boiling point, and now you see the world losing its mind with what is the truth, right? There's a battle on allegedly the narrative, but that won't be accurate because different narrative imply different perspective or different aspect of a truth, but that's not the case that I'm talking about. What is going on is not narrative versus narrative, even though a lot perceive it to be this way. What has been going on is literally truth, objective truth meaning, versus lie. Okay? So if I woke up this morning and went and brushed my teeth, I woke up this morning and went and brushed my teeth. If someone might be like perceiving that I woke up this morning and I went and threw arrows at a tree because either they dreamt it or imagined it or saw someone that looks like me, or they're just flat out, I don't know, out of their mind or simply lying, that's not a narrative, right? That wouldn't be a narrative. I did not go out to the woods and fired and shot arrows at a tree. I don't know what but you're getting my point. I woke up and I went and brushed my teeth. That was the reality. Okay? So that's the difference that I'm talking about there. A perspective would be, I went and used a stick with a paste and put it on my teeth. That would be a form of expressing a reality. It's still the reality, right? It's just a different way of saying the same thing. That's okay. If someone thinks that toothbrushes and toothpaste are really bad for you, then they can say that I woke up in the morning and did something that is bad for me. But that may, that's a perspective-ish, but still not really true. I know I'm saying things that are obvious, but I'm giving these examples because it's not obvious. Neptune being in retrograde in Pisces and Saturn having been retrograding in Pisces, and other aspects to this, of course, but I'm talking in reference to this transit. It's been an absolute insanity of truth, objective truth, versus just blunt lies or blunt insanity that is being confusing, and the world has been confused by. But simultaneously, it's not like the world even knew that it's searching for the truth versus the lie. The world thought it's just narrative versus narrative. What is my opinion? Where do I place myself when it comes to my perspective? So that is the illusion that I want to break. And it's also the illusion that Neptune will break once it moves direct in Pisces. It's going to be, for some people, liberating, because if you have seen things for what they are objectively, it will be a very liberating, freeing experience to see the world kind of waking up to what you've been trying to sound the alarm bells on. And for others of you, it will also be liberating, but from a different place of you are under a cloud or under an illusion, and now you're coming to terms with the reality. So depending on how far off you've been, that's how strongly you will feel it or not. Again, so different seekers out there, different people will experience it differently. It really depends on how you're coming to this, right? Pisces is cosmic truth, right? And the cosmos has an objective truth. The first thing that comes to many of you, of your mind when I said cosmic truth, is like spiritual, ethereal, everything is possible kind of truth. But that's not entirely accurate. The broader or higher dimensions, if you want to call it, do also have an objective understanding of truth and justice. Otherwise, the whole notion of karma will be futile, right? How can karma be delivered in a positive sense, in a positive way or a negative way, if there is no initial understanding from the source that delivers the karma of what is right versus wrong? Does that make sense? Like, if everything is everything, then karma has nothing to base itself on. So the notion of, punishment versus reward, mundane justice, also exists in higher dimensions, and from there it kind of trickles down to reality and then plays out as events in our life. Does that make sense? So if you're coming into this from the perception that all truth is always subjective here and in outer dimensions, or if you think, okay, there's objective truth here but not in outer dimensions, it's not accurate. I'm sorry. I know it's a really nice thought. It's a very liberating thought. Oh, I can do anything and everything is always fine. No, accountability exists here and there. Some of you might like hearing that, some of you might not. That's up to you. So what does it mean? Because Pisces is also the sign, speaking of karma. So when Neptune will move direct, a lot of astrologers say that when it's in retrograde, it delivers the karma, and then when it's direct, you kind of have somewhat of a clean slate to rebuild it. Personally, I disagree. Maybe specifically in this case, and because it has been so confused and confusing, it gave people the opportunity to practice their strength of character and vigilance when it comes to pursuing what is true, and an opportunity to put their ego and former conceptions aside to actually dig deep and search for what is, or what has been. So for those of you who have done this, I think Neptune moving direct will be a very uplifting, rewarding experience. For those of you, two more main groups. One is those of you that have genuinely been confused. You wanted to know what right versus wrong is, truth versus lie is, and you just couldn't find your way. So that's not malicious, that's confused. And so the moving forward, the direct motion of specifically Neptune and Pisces, and I'm just talking about this transit, right? There's so many things happening, but specifically in this case, will be a clarification of everything, which will be uncomfortable, but not maybe painful. Uncomfortable, not so much painful. For those, though, who have been staying blindfolded willfully, and you won't admit that you've done so willfully, you'll be like, no, of course not. But where a lot of truth was right in your face, but you chose to ignore from a place that chooses the ego and doubling down, that might be painful for people who have been under that type of mindset, behavior, who made that type of choice. Either way, bottom line, it will be a really, really bright, strong wake-up call to many. And it won't end there, because once you realize something, then you can't unsee it, and then you have to act accordingly. So there will be collectively a lot of results. What do I mean by that? People will be exposed for deceit, for manipulation, for propaganda, for deceiving the public, from media organization to alleged humanitarian organizations. The reason I'm putting quote around humanitarian is because humanitarian in and of itself is amazing, but when an individual or a group uses the term humanitarian to cover up something very insidious, that's plain diabolic. So I'm being kind when I just say humanitarian with quotes. And there will be consequences, like very, very real consequences, from best case scenario, relatively people being fired, all the way through imprisonment. There will be organizations that will break down, will be closed, and it will all happen publicly. It might not start publicly, but definitely will eventually. And I don't think it will take a long time. I think things will happen really fast, like a domino effect. It's already in the process. People are already losing their credibility and their status, or their jobs, or whatever the case may be that is relevant. There will be many organizations that many people in the world consider to be like either humanitarian or objective or good. Big organizations, worldly, international ones, that are going to be exposed for no less than, it's just, there's no better word for it, but absolute demonic behavior. And it's going to be painful for a lot of people to realize that the sources that they thought of as credible, let alone good, are horrifying. The biggest breakdown will come because, and this is something that every generation goes through, by the way, every generation thinks of itself as the smartest, kindest, best, which is why atrocities take so long to be put an end to, because people are in denial. They're like, no way it's happening here, no way it's happening with us, no way I have been a puppet of propaganda, no way I have been cooperating, even helping things that have done such, that have committed such incredible atrocities. That's, a lot of it is denial. A lot of the time that it takes for good people to do the right thing is absolute denial, because you first have to come to terms, if that's the case, of you being an active part of something really, really terrible, right? And that is something people don't want to do. So they double down, they deny, they gaslight themselves, pretty much, let alone others. In order to fight the good fight, many people have to first acknowledge that they have been fighting the bad fight. So that is going to be the hardest thing on people in this case, realizing that they have been the bad guy, that they have been in the wrong, that they have been the collaborators on the wrong side of history. It's a painful thing to, but you know, if this might be you, if you're watching this when things are already unfolding and you think, oh my God, it's me, if that's the case, count your losses and do the right thing, because if you choose, again, if that's your case, if you choose to double down and reserve your ego over doing what's right, then you're only making matters worse in reality, but also for yourself. Better be the person who woke up and acknowledged making a mistake and then doing what's right than the person who's just insisting on them being right. Because objective truth is such a powerful notion, both in this reality and in other dimensions, there's no running away from it. This is a world of illusions and contradictions and deceit, which is why it's so often being hidden from us or takes a long time to be exposed. But nonetheless, it will come to light and will be exposed. Everything in all topics, always just a matter of time. And that is what I wanted to talk about in relation to Neptune moving direct. Thank you for tuning in. Stay magic, stay true. I love you.